All right, guys, welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm your host, Raphael Calamat, alongside Michael Bleakley, who's with us every week out of Vancouver. I'm in Toronto. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Dubs Anderson. He's with a very special organization called Fanduel TV, and we're excited to have him on. Welcome to the show, Dubs.
Gentlemen, great to catch up. Thanks for having us on. A couple of my Canadian brothers. And yeah, I mean, what a time it is to jump in, smash a couple of winners for hopefully a couple of tournaments this week. So thanks again.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to have you. Look forward to getting to know you a little bit and getting your perspective on what's going to happen in action this week.
Yeah, it should be a good tournament. I mean, no weeks off for the PGA Tour and the golf betting side of things, and taking a look at some of the numbers here. Hopefully we can chase a couple of prices. But of course, you boys get a decent field. I know we were talking off there before we came on here about the Canadian Open. It's a tough schedule, but you've still got some of the best golfers in the world. Me being an Aussie, I complain that our National Open doesn't get the same attention that it once did. So it should be a great tournament.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We're talking about the RBC Canadian Open happening at the Hamilton Golf and Country Club. We have a record amount of 29 Canadians actually playing in the field. And I'm just going to do a very brief breakdown of these 29 players. I like to divide them into tiers. So tier A would be your PGA Tour players, the guys that you kind of know. There's the tier B players, so guys who have had lots of experience on tour, had a tour card, or are playing on a different tour. And then we got our C players. That's a big bunch. Those are guys who got exemptions, right? Those are the guys who qualified. So you might know Taylor Pendrith, Nick Taylor, Corey Connors, Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Handwood, and I'm going to throw in Ben Silverman because he's sort of on the cusp of coming over and playing really well. So those are my A guys. I'm not going to go into the C tier, but the B guys are Adam Svensson, Mike Weir, Roger Sloan, our buddy Jared Dutois, David Hearn, Aaron Cockrell, and Michael Glickich. I got that right, I hope. Glickich. So a lot of great players, a lot of opportunities for Canadians to do a rise. Dubs, your opinion on what you think is going to happen out there this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, last time we were here was back in 2019. Rory McIlroy figured out this golf course. What's he won? 2 of the last 3, but it measures as just over 7,000 yards, past 70. So one of the shorter golf courses where I really do think finding the short stuff, accuracy off the tee will be an absolute premium. And one thing that I've always factored in to a handicapping when we look at some of the courses up there in Canada, I feel like the shot makers do really well. So another key metric to go with accuracy off the tee is strokes gained on approach. I think it will play pretty soft. I think we get to the high teens under par, but this is a really cool golf course. It sounds like they've gone through a couple of updates since we were last there, and hopefully they let the rough grow because, we get out to these golf courses, especially here stateside on the PGA Tour, where, they're trying to go against the golfers by making the courses longer, put them to 76, 7,700 yards, but I don't think that's the answer. I think a golf course like we'll see at Hamilton this week, if you really shorten up the width of the fairways, let that row grow out to 3-4 inches, where you can reward, I guess, the old school golfers, where it's important to maybe club down to find the fairway, where you really will be penalized by trying to play the bomb and gouge that we see here in, stateside. Some of these resort style courses, you can get away with hitting it anywhere you want. As long as you're 350 off the tee, you're going to score. I think this is a course where it leans more towards that golf IQ and a bit more artistry, more so than power.
Yeah, I agree. And it's fun to see. I love seeing these players have to think of accuracy versus distance. It does get a bit boring watching driver wedge all day long, even though they are hitting it 350, and, I'm impressed by that. But let's see these guys think a little bit and put a premium on accuracy. I think it bodes well. And this tournament sort of has comparisons to the RBC Heritage, right? So where it's not the longest course on tour, but we usually produce a solid champion. So look forward to seeing how this plays out.
Absolutely. An older golf course as well. It's an older style, smaller crown greens in a lot of areas. It looks like it's really wide open, really built for a championship event. This is the third oldest open in the world after all. So you're going to have all the top players like Rory McIlroy. And I could see over on Fanduel Sportsbook, he's at plus 360.
Roy's going to be tough to beat, boys. You know, he's obviously had a lot of success north of the border. And I really do think for Rory, I don't know if you could still say this with the form that he's shown this year, but I think for a good couple of years there, he struggled with being that guy as the front runner, as the short price favorite, a plus 360 as the one to beat. But something about playing in Canada where maybe he doesn't get the same kind of reception from the fans. And we're expecting to see a rowdy bunch up there. Every time we get up to Canada, it's some of the best sports fans across the globe, especially out there on the golf course. So Rory McIlroy on a golf course where he's going to be forced to move it both ways, and he will have to use that imagination. Obviously, he's figured it out. You know, we saw that back here in 2019. The run he's had, it's been tremendous, and I know he's got some adversity off the golf course, you know, pardon ways there with the misses, but it doesn't look like it's slowed down his golf game in any shape or form. So no surprise, he is the chalk play, but he'll be right in the thick of it.
It might even accelerate his success, right? So
wouldn't be
the first time it's happened out there. And rumor has it that him and Amanda Balionis are getting chummy. So, you know, who knows?
I tell you what, boys, the golf world, you know, not that these are good things which are going on, but it's never been more exciting or interesting than what we've seen the last, you know, I guess 24 months, 2 years ago. I remember 2 or 3 years back, the biggest controversy we had in the golf course was when Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka weren't seeing eye to eye, when one of them rolled their eyes when the other one walked behind him at the US Open. And here we are. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, especially with Scotty Scheffler and everything. You know, how often do we get to see a mugshot of a professional golfer and all the controversy that goes around that? Certainly, he's on fire, as is a certain woman on the LPGA Tour. I'm going to have one of you guess who I'm talking about.
Nelly. It's got to be Nelly. I mean, what a run. What is it, 6 wins?
6 wins
this year and trying to take down another major championship. It's truly remarkable. I feel like, you know, on the women's side of things, I used to caddy for an LPGA Tour player back in the day, and I feel like we've been waiting for, you know, Michelle Wee to become Michelle Wee, Lexi, who announced her time, but Nelly Corder's just saying, hey, I'm going to take this thing. Doesn't hit it a mile, but just every week is right there and knows how to get it done on Sundays.
I watched her at Shaughnessy Golf Club here for last year's Canadian Open, and amazing. I stood in the range for about 25, 30 minutes just watching her hit balls. It was incredible to see it live in person, and just perfect, just like it was on a string right down into the middle of the range effortlessly. So, yeah, very impressive player. Looking forward to seeing what she does.
Yeah, we've been seeing a domination by the Asian players since the mid-2000s. And it's been a while since we've had an American to cheer for here in North America. I mean, Lexi Thompson really got the crowd going. But for her to do what she's doing reminds me of what Caitlin Clark's doing sort of in basketball. Like, all eyes are on women's sports right now. And if she's able to pull this off this weekend, you're going to have the majority of people watching that event.
Yeah, I really think Nelly is a special generational talent. I mean, I think back to Annika Sorenstam, Savory Pack, who else? I guess, Kari Webb was, you know, probably flying the flag for us Aussies, but
yeah,
you know,
Ochoa.
Yeah, exactly. Ochoa. I mean, you look at 1 or 2 wins in a season, you're like, yeah, they're one of the best players in the world. But to have 6 wins already, and it's like she's figured out the blueprint. You know, when we look at Scotty Scheffler, you look at his golf game, what does he do? Well, I mean, the stats support it, but his golf game and golf swing are not textbook. It's just this mindset to keep the big numbers off the scorecard. And Nelly does it the same way. She gets herself into contention. A lot of these other players in the big pressure spots take themselves out of the tournament. She just keeps on chugging. There's no big numbers on the scorecard. She grinds. She hits it with plenty of pop, as you would have seen when you're watching her on the range, but a really special talent that we are seeing, and very similar to a Caitlin Clark, that kind of special.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. A big shout out to Brooke Henderson, obviously having a stellar season herself, playing out there at the U.S. Open, and Maud Emmy LeBlanc, who will also be playing. So we're always pushing our Canadians. We're always cheering for them. But certainly someone to look out for is Nelly this weekend. Dubs, give us a little bit tell us a bit about yourself, about how you got into working with Fanduel and your journey in golf and in sports betting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just before I lead into that, Brooke Henderson, we're seeing at 25-1 at the Fanduel Sportsbook.
Wow.
She can play, and she absolutely bombs it. So she's one of my favorite players on the ladies side of things. I'll throw in Minji Lee there as well. But my story started back in Australia. I was a caddy for a good friend of mine who got her LPGA Tour card. That brought me over to the States, was very big in golf, wanted to work in media. And I guess, a few years into it, the sports betting space was sort of starting to tick up. And, for the Canadians, the Aussies, we know betting. It's been around for a long time. Here in the States, it's still, very fresh. I guess we're on the first 3 or 4 holes of sports betting, down here in North America. So with the TV, with the golf, the sports betting all blending into one, that's sort of really catapulted me to get things going in the last 4 years. And it's led me to now working at FanDuel TV. I co-host the morning show Monday through Friday, where we cover anything from the golf, PGA, LPGA Tour. We've got the live horse racing. NFL's obviously a big one for us in season. And then Stanley Cup, MLB, NBA, no shortage. Whatever we can bet on, trying to help the bettors cash a couple of tickets.
So
Absolutely.
Where did the nickname come from?
Mate, it's pretty simple, actually. It's my initials. So AA, Andrew Anderson. I don't go by Andrew, I guess, unless I'm in the bad books with mum. So AA led to Dubsy, to Mr. Dubsy. I was working on an esports gaming show, and they're like, well, you need a tag. It can't just be a name. And I'm like, I don't know, Mr. Dubsy, is that available? I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll throw that in the mix. But, I play a lot of golf, obviously, and on my golf bag, I've got double aces for the initials, but everyone thinks I'm big into my poker. I can't play poker. I don't have the patience to sit around. I need that quick hit. It's always a big misconception. So Dubsy, AA.
Very cool. And I feel your sentiments on poker. I find it mind-numbingly boring. You give me a pair of threes, I'm going all in just because I want some action, right?
Well, we've had a diverse weekend where we're looking at a new winner, Davis Riley, winning on tour, obviously. And then we got Higgs, who goes back-to-back and wins over on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's making his way back to the PGA Tour. Obviously, one of the things that was really exciting for me was Richard Bland winning the senior PGA championship, and then him not obviously getting his card. Normally, a champion on an event like this, or a major on the Champions Tour, would get their card for the Champions Tour. But obviously things are not smooth yet between LIV and the PGA Tour. So we saw that happening. And you being Australian, I've got to ask you, you probably have some favorite Australian players. I love Jason Day, Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott, Cameron Davis, obviously Cameron Smith, and Lucas Herbert. Do you got some favorites on the Australian side?
Yeah, you grabbed a couple of them there. I think Minwoo Lee is probably our most exciting product out of the young guys for the Aussies right now. Yet to win on the PGA Tour, but I do think it will be this season. On the betting side of things, you're still getting a pretty good number because he really hasn't contended too late on a Sunday afternoon. And that's a player that I think would be capable of winning in a regular tour event. I think he could also contend at the major championships. He's got that sort of chip on the shoulder where he wants that smoke. I think Jason Day, over the last couple of years, now that he's gotten healthy, he's got to be close to one of our best now. The short game is there for Jace. He looks happy. He looks comfortable out in the golf course. And, that was probably a player that could have gone to LIV, having those Aussie connections with Greg Norman, with the other Aussies who said, you know what, I want to prove it to myself that I can still play some really good golf with the guys on the PGA Tour. He stuck around. He's playing phenomenal. And Adam Scott, Adam Scott is a golfer that probably hasn't got too many left, but I do think he's got one left in him. And it's not going to be on an easy golf course. I think players like Adam Scott are going to be rewarded for their golf IQ, their grit, where it's a 6-7 under par that wins the tournament. I think Adam Scott, he's still got one left in him. Jason Day's playing fantastic. Minwoo Lee is our hottest prospect. And Cameron Smith still has all the talent and ability in the world. And one thing we've seen over the last, 6 months is, the golfers going to live. They're going there for a payday. They're getting a couple of, cocktails once they get over there. But after a while, they want to win. They're professional golfers. They want to show up. And we've seen it at the majors. Brooksy showed up. I think John Rahm's going to figure his stuff out. But Cameron Smith, he looked much better from what we saw there 2 weekends ago. And I still think he's got one of the best short games in the world. So that's my take on the Aussies. On the women's side, Minjee Lee, she's a rock star. She's better than Minwoo. She's that good. She's already had success in the majors.
Oh, that's pretty great. I just want to do a shout out very quickly for Nude Beverages, ECS Agency, as well as Castillo Roofing in Florida, and Lagmaster Sports. Thank you for your sponsorship and staying with us all this time. Look, I'm really excited. You've got a couple of betting and sportsbook numbers for us. Can you throw out some numbers for the RBC Canadian Open this weekend? I know that there's some really good ones. Tommy Fleetwood at plus 1,600 looks pretty hot, and Shane Lowry plus 2,200. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and look, I don't have the biggest card coming in for this week's event, but I had to take a slice of Tommy Fleetwood. We were talking about it on our preview earlier today. He's an 8-time winner internationally. It just hasn't worked out on the PGA Tour. He should have got his first win at this tournament last year, despite it being a different golf course. And you look at the metrics, top 15 golfer in the world. He's so consistent. He's always showing up. He's always in the mix. And I think this is a tournament similar to the angle of Rory playing good internationally, where I think, it's still a PGA Tour event, but it's not going to feel the same on Sunday afternoon for Tommy. And I think he's well suited to an old school golf course where he's going to be rewarded from that iron play. You speak to a lot of guys between the ropes, and I'll speak to a lot of coaches, on the weekly. Who's got the best move? Who's got the most talent? Well, it's usually Rory McIlroy's the most talented. Best golf swing, best move points back to Tommy Fleetwood. So it's just a matter of time if he keeps putting himself in the mix. At 16-1, plus 1,600 is the number I've seen here stateside. I don't like playing the second choice, in the golf betting, but I think he's absolutely worth the play. He's far too good to not have his first win. I think this is the kind of golf course. These are the conditions where we've got some big names, but you may also get a couple of players who are, they're getting this one in. They're looking towards the next major. Maybe it's their first time in Canada. You've got all the locals who are going to get a lot more buzz than what they would do playing here in America. So I think this could be a nice little spot for Tommy Fleetwood to just sort of sneak under the radar a bit amongst the media anyway.
I've always liked Fleetwood. He's got such a solid game. He's a bit underrated, more so in North America. He just hasn't got it done, but he will. I do like him in Canada. I think takes some of the pressure off, being north of the border, and it's a solid field, solid course. I'm probably going to be jumping on to Fanduel and throwing some money down on him after this podcast.
Yeah, they love him out here, finishing second last year. Nick Taylor making that 72-foot putt over on the green in that playoff. Probably one of the best calls by our buddy Mark Zucchino out here. And it was pretty outstanding. We loved it. And there's a big Irish and English and Scottish contingent of population who love golf in Canada, who follow the game. And so you've got them with a hockey attitude and crowds. So if you're out on the golf course at a Canadian Open, you're always going to have a hole like the rink hole that we have, the par 3, where everybody's banging on the boards, really hollering, making noise. I remember Rory last year talking about the crowd's a little bit too close. But it's really exciting to see. And obviously these guys are wrestling, trying to impress Mike Weir, who's in the field, to get on that President's Cup team to play at Royal Montreal Golf Club this year. And not since 2007 has the President's Cup been there. My old stomping ground as an assistant professional at Royal Montreal Golf Club. I can't wait to be there this year and to see all these players. We're going to wrap this up a little bit. I do want to mention something very important. Something's happened over the weekend, and we don't talk about it enough, and that's our mental health. Grayson Colby Murray, at the age of 30, committed suicide, and I just want to say, it's time for people to be able to talk about their mental health. And I think for men, and especially for an individual sport like golf, guys are on their own. They feel alone. I know they have their families and their teams, and some people are stronger than others, but we kind of keep things to ourselves. So, if you feel like you got to reach out, say a kind word. If you see somebody down, try to pick them up.
Yeah, well said. I don't think it gets the attention it deserves. And a lot of people look at these professional golfers and think, they got so much money. Surely they're happy. They're going from city to city, but it can be quite lonely, especially if you're not, one of the big names. You're staying in a hotel by yourself. Your caddy's probably doing his thing. So the PGA Tour professional can be a lonely road, but especially for us, fellas, we often look past it just saying, oh, mate, we'll grab a beer. We'll move on to the next one. You'll go get 9 holes in. But, you really should address. And, that's the good thing about social media, that you can reach out to certain people. I always try and reach out to a couple of mates who maybe I've lost a bit of touch with. But, no, it's well done for you boys for highlighting it. And what a loss to, professional golf in Grayson. They're such a talent, wonderful guy. Obviously had been struggling with his stuff for a very long time, but you hear a lot of the stories, after the weekend, of how many people he touched and how many people he reached out to, despite him going through his struggles, to just say, I'm in the same boat. Just keep going, day after day, keep working on things, speak to people, reach out. So yeah, it's if we can just do one thing in Grayson's memory, is just be a little more open, and we don't always have to be the big tough guys looking to get the next cold one in.
And we also have to take it easy, because you don't know what people are going through. And with Grayson, for example, he's just won a big tournament this year, and you think he's on top of the world. When you're looking at it from the outside, you don't know what people's demons are. So you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off, just back off, take it easy. Don't be an ass to everybody. If someone cuts in front of a line in Starbucks, just suck it up. You don't know what's going on inside anybody's mind, what they're dealing with. And it's just humanity just got to take it down a notch, and and reach out to your friends. This was a shock for everybody, and it's a huge loss for golf. And you can't, there's a lot of tears this weekend, for people you haven't even met Grayson. But you can feel for the story, and it's awful. A huge loss for golf.
All right. Well, on a lighter note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about Coffs Harbour banning an 11-year-old girl because her handicap wasn't below 25. And I believe this was in Australia.
11 teen?
She was 11 years old, and her handicap isn't 25 or below. Now, she's not a beginner. She's actually a competitive golfer. She loves the game, and she was thinking of switching the sport. Now, I gave a lot of support. I reposted, reached out to the family. They got back to me. Very excited to talk about this. Things need to change. We're trying to grow the sport. Your thoughts, guys, on something like this? I'm sure you're going to agree with me, I hope.
Well, I played a tournament here on the Vancouver Golf Tour, which dubs as a local mini tour for AMs and professionals. And I was playing in the champ flight, and I believe she was 12, Lucy Liu, I believe her name was. I could have that wrong. She drops 4 under on the whole flight. There's about 30 guys and this one girl in the flight, and all of us are embarrassed. I think I shot high 70s for the day and wanted to throw all my clubs into the water. And this kid comes out, and she even had a double and a bogey, and comes out with a 4 under, whipped our asses. But it was great. It was great. This kid will probably be one of the names we see on TV in Canada in a few years. So, but Raf, to address your point, I think little rules, nuances like this could be avoided. We're trying to grow the game. We need to grow the game continuously, and it's a shame. I don't know all the details, but from what you just said, I don't like it.
Yeah, Mike, we're saying it this, we're seeing it the same. But I tell you what, we're not going to agree. If you're shooting high 70s, throwing your clubs out the window, we're going to have a conversation. I'd take a high 70s and run. But no, look, it's a sign of the times. You know, we need to grow the game and get as many younger talent involved as possible. And I do think some things have to change. You know, I was at a country club recently, and someone came up and like, oh, you've got to tuck your shirt in, and then someone else got chipped for having the speaker. And I totally, respect the rules, and it's an old school game, and a lot of traditions are what make it, it's so wonderful. But there's certainly a tone, and there's certainly going to be a couple of changes made to some of these rules that we have in place, especially at your local clubs. Otherwise, they're just not going to keep going because, social media, the world in which we live in now in 2024, everything has to be faster, quicker, sharper. You've got so many different choices. I mean, look at some of these other sports. There's pickleball. There's professional pickleball, which is now a thing, which is absolutely going to take, other players away from the game of golf, which we don't want to happen. So I think we have to sort of, take a look at a couple of things that may be holding us back, but certainly encourage girls, boys, all ages to get involved as much as they can, even if it's not for 18 holes.
It needs to be fun. Golf, it's a tough sport, right? Like you could try, you could practice basketball and golf for 1 year. You'd be a much better basketball player than you are a golfer after a year. So, it needs to be fun and inviting for people because it's an intimidating game. It's difficult. There's a lot of attitude at certain golf clubs. Like you just said, Dub's not tucking your shirt in, little things like that, or God forbid you wear your cap inside, you're getting a letter and a suspended, right? So there's a lot of things that are, some traditions could be lightened a little bit. So, and encourage the game. Although it is hard to get a tee time these days. So,
that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
So maybe they need to thin things out a bit. So.
Yeah. And I should clarify, like, you can't be playing golf with the shirt wrapped around your head. You can't be playing music with the subwoofers in the golf cart. If you want to play a little music, as long as it's not affecting your playing partners, you can do everything respectfully, of course.
Yeah.
No, the game's changed. The game's changed. The players are getting bigger. They're getting faster. The kids are coming out of not just college, but out of high school. And they're all hitting it carry 300 plus. It's wonderful to see. And they're dialing in the game. You have the TrackMan. You've got the GC Hawk system. You're able to dial in your numbers, your spin rates. You're able to shape the ball. Coaching, fitness, nutrition has never been better. And why are we surprised to see the PGA championship at -21? I mean, you got Scheffler pushing DeChambeau, pushing Scheffler to the limit to play well. But, there's half of the field didn't make the cut. Let's take that under consideration. So all the old farts, I'm 50, but all the old farts on, NBC Golf Channel, on all the pods talking about the old game, growing the rough, lightning fast fairways. There's something to be said about the fact of how good these guys actually are. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and they've got the mindset to win out of college now. We saw it with Nick Dunlap earlier this year. They don't care if it's an NCAA tournament, if it's the Corn Ferry Tour, the PGA Tour. They've got a simple game plan. Hit it as far as they can off the tee, make as many birdies as they can. And if they're rolling the rock, they're going to shoot 12, 14, 16 under par, and it could win on the PGA Tour. If it doesn't go in their favor, they miss the cut. They shoot 72, 74, but they now rather be more erratic with that chance to have a higher ceiling on one of those weeks than consistency. So it's no surprises. These young guys, they're playing fearless golf. They don't know what playing safe to the middle of the green is. They don't know about playing different shots. It's just driver, wedges. They're phenomenal with all their wedges, and they're going to go at every stick.
It's dump and chase, and
it really is.
It's you can't describe it any better. And it's great to watch, but it's just everyone, like you said it, Raf. They're all hitting it 300 plus, right? And it's like I need a downwind, firm fairways in August to get near 300, right? And now at 50, it's a rare occasion that when I was younger, I could get it close to there, but it'd be a few times a season. Where I could remember them, not just every time, right? So it's a wild game, and it is a lot of fun to see. And I would like to see some more characters in the game with some unique swings. And like DeChambeau, he's a great character, and he's publishing a lot of decent content lately. His unique swing and
That's what the Live Tour has done, Mike. We've
yeah.
talked about this a number of times. The Live Tour has put together a cast of characters that makes it so interesting to watch that event. I mean, back in the day, and to your point, Dubs, about distance, and Mike, you were talking about this as well. John Daly, Greg Norman, the longer players always had the advantage on tour, and there's different ways to get it around. Now, we've got the shorter players who, like Harman, who could get it around. There's other players who are getting 300 plus. Look at Xander. He's worked on his game and his distance. He's able to shape the ball and get some distance. So with today's technology and fitness, I think the shorter players are able to get there differently, right? Mm-hmm. You could really get good at, good GIRs, greens in regulation, and you still have to putt, you still have to chip, you still have to be able to have the full rounded game. And there's no better example than Harman over at the Open last year.
Yeah. He surprisingly with Harman, you look at all the metrics, like not the biggest bomber, but the better courses that he does well on are the longer golf courses. Just something about, I guess they suit his eye. But a couple of great points there. You mentioned Harry Higgs. Now he's had back-to-back wins. That's a big character that we could welcome on the PGA Tour. But you're right. The way that Liv is set up, these players are allowed to sort of showcase everything they're about. And we see a lot more than just Thursday to Sunday. Bryson's obviously got a big presence on the digital channels, and a couple of the other golfers are allowed to really go after what they want. But we need more of it. It's like certain sports where you just don't know the big profiles. You're not going to bet on it. You're not going to watch on it. So the more storylines and more characters and profiles that we can absolutely pump up, it's exciting for the game. It adds a lot to it. And I mean, for what Bryson's done, he lost his game there for a minute after he went after all that distance, but now he's refined it. He's got that short game back, and he was the villain 3 years ago at the PGA Championship 2 weeks ago. I want him to win. Everyone wanted him to win. He's fist pumping. He's showing a bit of flair, and in terms of golfing ability, he's a special talent.
Yeah. Anthony Kim's pretty wild to watch him and to see what he's doing. He's getting pretty popular on social media too. People are following what he's doing. He's being very vocal about his training sessions, how he's progressing. Obviously showing his daughter and his family and his new life. He's obviously gone through a lot as well.
He's ridden it hard and put it away wet, but he's on the comeback trail, and everyone loves to see that. So if he can get in contention first, like I don't expect him to win right away, but let's start seeing him get some top tens under his belt. And what a story it would be if he could hoist a trophy over his head. And after all the negativity that he's received for coming back out on to live, and but how can you blame him? Like your golf channel ripping him apart. But, I'm sorry, if Liv sent me a wooden nickel and a plane ticket, I'd be there and I'd give it a try. So, here's Anthony Kim, who was a hell of a character that just disappeared from the game with this wild story, this injury and insurance claim. And then he's alluded to, having some scoundrels around him that, swindling him out of some money and all that. Like, I can't wait for the documentary to come out, because I think people are going to be blown away with what he's seen, and he's probably had some fun times and probably had a little too much fun some of those times, and it's caught up with him. So let's see it, and good for Liv for rolling the dice and taking a chance with him.
Fair credit to him as well. I mean, for us and for your viewers who know golf really well, I mean, if you get the chipping yips or the pain, you're not coming back from it. I mean, this guy didn't play golf for 10 years, and now he's back mixing it with major champions, Brooks Koepkas, Dustin Johnson. Sure, he's posted a couple of big numbers, but he's also torn apart a couple of golf courses and made them look silly. It looks like the Anthony Kim that we saw light up the PGA Tour when he first came onto the scene. So, made full credit for putting himself back out there. And you got to think that he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't think he could get back to contending. So give him another 12 months. Anthony Kim, what a Cinderella story that would be to come back from.
Yeah, just a friendly reminder to everybody. He shot 5 under in Hong Kong on his last round. He had never been on a TrackMan, didn't even know his numbers, ordered a set of clubs online, started playing again with his wife's clubs, and the list of hilarious things and points just goes on and on. But good for him. Look, we're going to wrap things up. We're really happy to have Dubs. I want everyone here to do their pick for the RBC Canadian Open. So as I'm talking, think about it. I'm going to give you my pick. Certainly, once again, we want to thank Nude Beverages, ECS Agency, Castilla Roofing in Florida, Lagmaster Sports, and let's get our pick here brought to you by Fanduel. Dubs Anderson, who do you think is going to take this event?
And I'm limited to one pick, right? It's going to be one.
You could give us a top 10 if you like, a couple of top 10s.
Okay, I'm going to give you 3. Top outright, Tommy Fleetwood at 16-1. This will be his first win on the PGA Tour. He's far too good not to have that one. In terms of top Canadians, I love Corey Connors in the outright market. I also like him as top Canadian, plus 330, second in strokes gained on approach, second in greens in regulation. I love Corey Connors' golf game. Let's get the Canadians back-to-back consecutive years. In a top 20 play, a Kiwi. I can't believe I'm doing this. A New Zealander, Ryan Fox, for a top 20 finish. He's a bit of a dog, sneaks under the radar. You'll get a price.
I love it. You're going to get trolled online from your fellow country mates for that one.
Sorry, boys. Let's go. Go the Kiwis.
Go ahead, Raf.
Well, I've got a dark horse pick. One of the players that's played the Canadian Open over a dozen times. David Hearn. He's plus 100,000. Is that right? Is that right? Is that possible? Is that 10,000? No, it's 100,000.
That's a number.
Okay. That's a dark horse. Obviously, my secondary pick. My secondary pick is Nick Taylor going back-to-back at the RBC Canadian Open. I know we haven't seen a Canadian Open winner since Pat Fletcher in the 60s, but I think Nick's going to really show up once again with all that build confidence and everything that's going on in the game. And obviously, Rory McIlroy is my top pick.
All right. Well, Raf, I'm going to echo you with Rory. I have a feeling he's going to do okay this week. Got rid of some baggage and maybe a new affair with Amanda could be.
Gosh.
Add a little spring.
We're going to hear about that.
If that's true, who knows? But
wasn't he just separated? Didn't he just get a divorce? Okay.
There's usually a reason for a separation, and maybe
that's right. Right.
And I really like Fleetwood. I think he's a little pissed off from not getting the close off last year. And my dark horse will be Sahith Theegala.
Very nice.
Very
nice. So, Dubs, where can we hear you? Where can we see you?
Yeah, you can catch us Monday through Friday on Fanduel TV or hit us up on the socials at Mr. Dubsy. But good times, boys. How good is it? Talking a little golf, trying to back a couple of winners. That's all I need.
No, exactly. Thank you so much for joining us. No, it's like why we do this podcast, just to network and and shoot the shit with keen golf enthusiasts and analysts. And it's been a lot of fun. And if anyone who's still with us, please subscribe, engage, throw us a comment. It goes a long way these days, especially YouTube. Get over to our YouTube channel. It needs some love. Thank you,
Dubs. Feel free to share and to like our content and subscribe. We're on X, Facebook, YouTube, and IG right now, live, and we'll be showing content. This is a new format that we're trying out right now. We're not on a desktop version, but we're on a mobile version. So thanks for joining us. For Dubs Anderson, Michael Bleakley, I'm Raphael Calamat. You've been listening